Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden. Can you tell my back the lilac is still in bloom? It is more in a party shade area, so I think this is why. A beautiful variety, really wonderful. Can you see it? Big blooms, absolutely loving it. I think what I'm going to do at one point is going to thin it out a little bit towards the bottom here, because then you can really see the structure of it. And I'm also going to cut it back a little bit in height, because you really want to make sure that it doesn't grow too tall. But really wonderful. Today is not about cutting or pruning anything. Today is about planting more of my annuals. So I want to continue planting, and I want to put my amaranth finally in the ground. Really love them. I had amaranth last year, I think the first time ever. And it was kind of just like being in the garden center, waiting at the checkout forever. And then there is like the shelf with all the seeds. And I thought, you know what, why not try and give it a try? Because whenever I see amaranth in a flower shop, I'm like, oh, they are nice. And they kind of add something very special to a flower bouquet. So I tried it last year. I was really successful with them. And I was like so determined that this year I have 3 different varieties. They all look kind of all right. I discovered that slugs and snails love to munch on my red variety though. There is like red leaves, and it's going to produce red flower heads as well. So all of them were looking really nice, and then yesterday I found a massive huge slug munching on them, so I have 6 less already. Okay, that is what it is. I mean, this is just like the situation of gardening, I suppose. Also, I'm defending my dahlias at the moment. But yeah, this is the situation. What I want to do, obviously, is just quickly show you the areas where I want to plant. It's beautiful weather today, though. Swing around, there's no light in my face anymore. So it's a little difficult trying to find areas with shade here where I can film, because otherwise it's going to be sun flares everywhere. It is lunchtime. It's beautiful right now, because what I did in the morning, I wear a t-shirt, I wear shorts. It is wonderful, nice and warm today. There is just a gentle breeze, and there's it. So I thought, you know what? I just did what I think everybody should do every now and then. Just take your sun chair and just relax somewhere in the garden. And I did that for an hour. It was wonderful, but now I'm kind of like, yes, fingers are tickling. I want to start planting. So I just want to show you where I want to plant my amaranth. Hope you are excited. I'm standing in the midsection of the garden with you, where the midsection of the garden just like opens up towards the back of the garden. So to the left, there is the island bed with one of the 2 big walnut trees and the coleus that I just planted with you. And then you see 2 drifts of catmint, one of my favorite perennials at this time of the year, next to Aquilegia. And then you see hopefully the red, glowing red foliage of the cotinus in the back there. This is why I always try and make sure that I plant cotinus where the sun comes from the back, because then you really get to see the foliage glowing, and especially the flower heads going to be so beautiful very soon. But here I want to plant my first drift of amaranth. So in the front of the border, there are some Panacetum grasses. Then there is some Penstemon. This is a blend of Husker's Red and Dark Taurus, I believe. And then you see already some small containers standing here. So this is where I want to plant the first big drift. This is a variety called Red Velvet. So the leaves are dark red, and it is going to produce red tassel flowers. Most of the plants look really nice, but some of them have a little bit, try to show you now, slug damage. So here you can see something was munching on there, but at least they are still alive. There are some plants looking really bad, like that one here. That was a victim of last night, so I was really disappointed about that. Let's see, I hope once they are in the ground that they're really going to start picking up some growth, and that slugs and snails are not going to find it soon. I'm also going to plant in between the tulips, because at one point the tulips, they would just die back, and then I don't want to have a gap in here, obviously. But I think just the color combination of some asters in the back there, this is a variety called Judith von Dietlikon, they're going to flower wonderful, rich purple, then with a soft texture of the grass in the front of the border, and then with the red of the amaranth. I think this is going to be really beautiful. Last year I had amaranth in here, but that had kind of like pinkish red tassels and green foliage, and this year I want to try something else. If we continue walking, I want to put big drifts also in the new herbaceous border in the back of a garden, but I really don't have enough plants at the moment. So I was resowing, I'm going to show you in a second. So actually what I want to do is I come with my finger, I want to put a drift here just in front of the leaf compost heap, and then I'm going to put a drift here as well. I don't really have a lot of plants, and some of them look terrible. I'm not sure if they are going to bounce back. I really need to see. This is unfortunately not a pleasant sight. They were all looking so fantastic, and then last night I discovered the tragedy that just happened. I'm going to put some grasses in here, so don't look too close to that situation. This is going to happen in another video. But I think in general, this is going to be a really wonderful look as well. Obviously, this is all brand new planted, so the impact won't be as nice as in the new perennial border that I just showed you. If we continue walking to the back, I think I'm just going to show you everything in one big go now. Here to the right, this is where I keep all of my annuals and some veggie plants still. So here, the sun comes from my back. Let's see how this goes. There are more amaranth plants. So this is the same red variety. Germination is quite good and they start producing first sets of leaves. So I think what I'm going to do at one point is thin them out and then put one plant in one individual pot, because I really start to have more space here when I'm just continue planting. So at one point, most of my annuals will be in the ground, and that is perfect because then I have more space. Here is a third variety of amaranth. This is a green one with green tassels. I'm not really sure where to put it yet. I think this might go into the front garden, but I think I'm going to keep hold of them just a little longer, just in case if I run out of plants, they might find their way onto the slope. Let me quickly show you my salad crops. Aren't they just beautiful? I'm so happy with those and they taste delicious. The Roma salad really starts to form up now. I think I kind of planted them a little too densely maybe. What do you think? I guess the answer is yes, but in general everything looks extremely nice. Also down here, potatoes are looking fantastic. All of the cabbages looking nice. Onions and leek, well, still very flimsy. Can't really see a lot there on my onions and leeks. Beets are looking great, sweet artichokes, fennel looks nice, sweet corn. I'm really happy. I already have a good germination with most of the pumpkins. Some, there's nothing going on, but I still have those that I have in the pots up here. But if we swing around here, I want to continue planting. Actually, I also wanted to put some red amaranth here, kind of like in the back there, and maybe a little bit here, but I'm not sure if I have enough plants. I would love to do it, but I'm not really sure if this is going to work out. I'm going to resow some more today though. But I want to show you also where I'm going to put another variety of amaranth. I was always showing the plants in my previous videos. The variety called Autumn Palette. They're going to flower in all shades of like, kind of like burnt orange caramel. Don't want to say peachy, I hope something peachy. So here they are. Oh, maybe no shadow from me. I want to put a nice big drift here. Plants are looking extremely cute and nice. Not a lot of slug and snail damage, so I think this variety is not so yummy apparently for slugs and snails. The red one unfortunately really is, which is sad because I want to have a lot more of the red ones. But what I did is already last night I planted a couple of those amaranth here, because I just really wanted to start planting them. I was too excited about this. I'm going to have a little drift here, and then I'm going to have another drift here next to my dahlias and the petunias, and then there is going to be one last drift at the back here because they will grow to quite a nice height, which means that they might cover up the landscape fabric situation at least a little bit. What else is here? These are the dahlias that I planted with you. Aren't they looking nice? A little bit of slug and snail damage on them, but whenever I find a slug and snail, I remove it quickly. Generally looking good. And oh, cosmos. Remember the tiny flimsy cosmos plants that I planted with you? And they really start to bulk up now. They're looking so robust and wonderful. They start coming to bloom already. So this is kind of like the peachy variety. Very happy with that. What I want to do now is just give you some quick information about the amaranth and how to plant it. Before the planting, I just want to give you a few quick information about amaranth. Honestly, I just googled the common name because I was convinced that it is also amaranth, but apparently it's called pigweed. Is that really a thing? Is that really how it's called? I was a little surprised because I thought, oh, such a shabby name for such a wonderful plant, because I think like amaranth is something like really glamorous even in a border, especially when you look at the texture and quality that comes with the flowers. Like in terms of foliage, I can just show you the variety Autumn Palette again. Already the foliage is kind of like autumnal looking a little bit. It really has these shades of kind of like orangey and kind of like burnt colors a little bit. All the leaves on amaranth, at least the ones that I grew so far, look exactly like this, kind of like elongated leaves. And most of the varieties had like the green foliage. Then I have now the red velvet variety that has really kind of like burgundy color foliage, and then the autumn palette. So really you can do a little bit of investigation and see how the foliage looks as well, because it brings another element of interest to the overboard in terms of blooms. Last year I grew a variety that had these really wonderful long red tassels. I tried to remind myself to put a photo here, so hopefully I'm really going to do that now. They had green foliage and red tassels, so really kind of just like cascading down. It was a beautiful, wonderful sight. I was so thrilled about it, and I think I really caught the bug last year that this year I kind of like went a little bit overboard with my seed shopping, and there's so many varieties to choose from. Especially the height is intriguing. Really depending on the variety, they can grow between like 60 centimeters meter to 2 meter 50 in height apparently. None of the varieties that I'm going to grow here in my own garden, which means between 3 and 8 feet, I believe. I hope that these measures are right, but I'm pretty sure. I think when you are in a warmer climate with a good consistent moisture level, they will definitely grow to a taller height. But here I'm also exposed like on this slope to the wind traveling from west, so it really hits the slope here. So just from my experience, most of the perennials and annuals that I grow here, they tend to stay a little bit shorter to what the label says, just because of the weather situation and also because of the mild climate, and probably because nothing is on irrigation here. In terms of location, Amaranth thrives best in full sun. It is actually a crop. Like if you ever go to a supermarket, I mean, what a thing. If you go to the candy section of a supermarket, especially in organic supermarkets, you sometimes find these like candy bars with amaranth in it. It's kind of like puffed amaranth, so you can harvest the seeds or something from the amaranth. Honestly, there I'm really out of my knowledge zone. I have no idea how this works, but they are kind of like really nice. It's almost like tiny puffed rice a little bit, in a way, comparable, I think. Very yummy, very intriguing texture. So if you are really into like growing it and kind of like roasting or puffing it, probably that works as well. In terms of soil, they like to thrive in just normal neutral garden soil, exactly what I have here. I'm a little bit on the sandy side, but I've amended the soil wherever I plant these, so I don't need to do a thing. And all of them, they were already like grown on in these individual containers. Sometimes I have one plant, sometimes I have 2 plants in a container, I think sometimes 3, because the third one was like very flimsy looking. So what I'm going to do is here, obviously just one goes into the ground as it is, and I potted them on in really nice rich garden compost with organic bone chips in there. So I'm not going to enrich the soil. All I'm going to do today is going to be dang lazy. I just plant them straight level as they are in their containers, work my way through, because I think in total I have roughly 400 plants that want to find their way into the ground. Not all of them today, but I think I'm going to sow some more red ones today, because I feel I don't have enough, and since this entire slug and snail incident happened, I feel it is a good idea just to have some backup plants. So yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start planting, super excited to finally get the amaranth into the ground. The first 200, roughly 200 amaranth are in the ground now, so more to come, but I think I'm going to plant it without a video because it'd be just the same. One thing, dirty fingers, not wearing any gloves because when it's nice and warm outside, sometimes I feel like, oh, these poly gloves are not the most pleasant thing to wear in the garden. So this is going to be a little bit of a cleaning session in a moment. But nevertheless, one thing I still want to mention is you see that all my flower beds are mulched in heavily. And I was just saying like that some slugs and snails were munching on my amaranth. And obviously when you have mulch, this attracts slugs and snails because they just love to sit under there because they're kind of protected, it's moist, everything that they like. But in general, the mulch situation works really well here, so I really don't want to miss it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do my rounds and check it, especially in the morning and evening hours. And if some of the amaranth plants are not going to make it, you know what, that is just what it is. I have backup plants, so I can always just come in again, fill it up. I'm going to sow some more, really to be on the safe side, because I think I just can't have enough amaranth because they're so nice for cut flower arrangements. What I'm going to do now, quickly give you a last tour, especially like at the slope, just to explain to you like what I think is going to work extremely nice there with those plants that are already growing there. And it is kind of like an autumnal feel to it. So I know parts of the garden, areas of the garden don't look like a lot now. At this time of the year, really like the midsection of the garden where I'm standing right now, this is the area that shines. Towards the end of the year, it kind of shifts more to the back of the garden. So there is like more the autumnal garden. But I just want to quickly give you a last update too of everything. Obviously, whenever you plant like tiny plants and you mulch an area, the dark leaves, they kind of like disappear in all of the mulch here. But I predict in a month from now, once these tiny plants have established and they're really kicking with a lot of growth, it's going to be rather beautiful because the sun comes from the back of here for most parts of the day, which means that the dark red foliage really is going to glow. And I think this is going to be really fantastic, especially with all the greenery surrounding this area. For the last layer of the slope here, you know, I'm focusing on all shades of like peach and blue and purple. So I think that these like autumn colors from the amaranth will be really beautiful. And I will have a nice, come with my finger, big drift here next to the red sheaf grass. This is miscanthus. Then I'm going to have another big drift there and a last one in the back there, which means that it's like on each side of the little walk that you can take here on the last terrace of the slope. And I think this is always nice when it kind of like bounces from one side to the other, so your eye is like drawn to the back of a planting. And what I want to show you as well is the entire canna situation, because there is a big patch of brown here. I need to swing around because otherwise I'm going to cast a shadow. So the cannas haven't really shown a lot of sign of growth yet because it was just too cool, but here you can tell first ones are revealing their first leaves. I'm so happy. I was really excited. I started kind of like digging here a little bit and trying to find them. I think here's another canna. There is nothing really. So let's see. Let's kind of see how many are going to come back. I need to think maybe about a plan B just in case if the cannas are not working out. In general, those that I started off indoors, they almost look exactly the same to how they look when I planted them out. But I was just checking around the rhizomes and they come with more shoots. So I think that this is going to work. In general, like touching the soil here, it's moist, it starts to feel a little warm, and the dahlias are growing. So I feel like when the dahlias are already starting to grow and look nice, the cannas, they should actually kick in every week or so from now as well. But really excited, and I think the amaranth is going to look super nice, especially because it's so towering, tall, and just beautiful. And I think it's just going to have an amazing impact on this area of the garden. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I know that planting these tiny annuals doesn't look like a lot. I mean, I'm not delusional, but still I think it is interesting to take you with me on this entire journey because I showed you how I started sowing them back in February, I believe, February, March, around this time of the year, how they look now, how you potted them on, now they're finally in the ground, and give you all the update tours. So you really get to see this entire life cycle of an annual plant in my garden. One last thing I want to say, just in case if you haven't followed my videos or if you don't see a lot of my videos, I am not a trained horticulturist. What I do here is all hobby. I come from a fashion design background. Most of the things that I do here are kind of like self-educated. I love to watch Garden as well. So a lot of my information really comes from Carol Klein, Monty Don and Adam Frost. I think they always give you a lot of valid and intriguing and good and perfect information for your gardening. I also love to research on the RHS homepage because they're like great planting portraits or how to prune something, how to treat something. I think this is always very intriguing, maybe good information source for you as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there, but then I also want to say thank you so much for watching today's video, and obviously I would love to welcome you in my garden very soon again. Take care, guys. Bye. Bye with dirty fingers. Woo.